Hello everyone. Salamun alaikum. Welcome to Hood Cape podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. She is a psychotherapist based in North America and is a mental health speaker. She has given countless seminars, talks and workshops on mental health and well-being. She also runs a YouTube channel called The Muslim Counselor, where she shares her treasure of knowledge and wisdom to uplift young adults mentally and emotionally. Please welcome Barak Hussain.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear sister from the Hood and Cape podcast, thank you so much.
We are so excited to have you, Barak, on our podcast. The first thing that I want to ask you, and it's a personal concern too, that the Islamophobia penetrated deep in our societies can severely affect the mental well being of teenagers and young adults. How can they cope with it?
This is, this is something that has been an eternal issue that we have dealt with, whether it's different forms of discrimination and whatnot. And in recent years, it's been labeled as Islamophobia, as we did not even have this term before, but we definitely were feeling the repercussions of it before we even had this definition. So when it comes to this, it is really important that people, young minds and young adults and teenagers understand that this comes from a place of power and hate, that it is directed at you as a form of oppression. And we come from the line of Muslims where we stand up against oppression and injustice, especially through the example of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So my answer to that, when it comes to how it can affect the mental well-being and how we can cope with it, is to take a step back and disengage and understand that, again, this is coming from a place of hate and power. And how we choose to cope and deal with this is up to us. We do not have control over the systematic oppression, let's say, that is imposed upon us in this form of Islamophobia. And it can be from just using words to actual physical violence that we're seeing in lots of places around the world, from concentration camps that we see in China, from the violence and the upheaval that we're seeing in India, and what we're seeing in Kashmir, and what we're seeing in all parts of the world, including here in North America where I'm situated. Here we've seen it to get to the point of death as well. So it is happening. We cannot deny it. And the impact of that can really affect people in terms of their anxiety, their fear, and in terms of how people can view them and misunderstanding, really, right? So we need to take a step back and understand where it's coming from, and to understand how to respond to it in the way that we've been taught through the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, right? At the same time, to take care of our mental health with that, right? And take control of what we have control over. So when it comes to that control, how do you choose to respond to this? Would you let this get to your core? Would you let this impact the way you view yourself and your religion and your beliefs, whether it's spiritual, religious, psychological, political? How you choose to respond is in your power. So this is where, when we take a look at how we cope with it, we look at the locus of control and what we do to take care of ourselves. So there are things we cannot control outside. We try and take a look at it inside, right? People who have been impacted deeply on an emotional level, I always encourage people to get the support, mental health support, with therapists that they have within their own communities to help them manage that better.
That's quite a perspective. It is actually a form of oppression, and we have great leaders in form of Ahlul Bayt who have taught us how to face oppression of any form. Alhamdulillah. Well, but no matter how much we try to follow the path of Ahlul Bayt, we get beaten up during trying times. And at times people do go into depression. But the most challenging part is how to know that you are depressed, because sometimes you are just extremely sad, but that passes. So when to know that you really need help?
So we've all experienced ups and downs, and that's pretty normal, we would say. It becomes an issue when this normal becomes lengthy, when it impacts our full functioning. For example, if it impacts the way you deal with school, impacts your work, your interactions with your family and friends, if it impacts the way that you deal with your activities, your hygiene, your eating, your sleeping, that's when it becomes a problem. This overwhelming sadness where you're not taking care of these basics, that's when it becomes an issue, right? And so when you are dealing with depression, usually we recommend for you to go speak with your family doctor who can then refer you to a specialist. So even the doctor themselves could potentially treat you. It could be through medication, but usually what we'd like to do is take a look at changing lifestyle, getting your eating, your sleeping, and your exercise back on track, changing the lifestyle that way, getting rid of toxic people and energies around you, and the appropriate medication if this does not work. So it's really important to be holistic when it comes to the treatment of depression. And a lot has to do with our diet and the stressors that we're dealing with in our lives. If we do not take care of our stress properly, then it can lead to the increase of stress hormones in our body, which can then lead to either anxiety or depression or other mental health illnesses.
Well, lifestyle does impact your body and mind connection. Now, speaking of that, reminds me of young girls who seem to struggle with their body image. They tend to become too conscious of their bodies, and as a result of that, their mental health is severely affected. Do you have any message for them?
Of course I do. First and foremost, you are beautiful, beautiful as you are, as who you are, however shape and size you come in. A lot of young women compare themselves to unrealistic images out there on social media and magazines, in the media as well, as to what beauty is. And I think beauty is very personal. There's a personal interpretation to that. But beauty truly comes from within the person. And when it comes to this, it comes to the self-esteem, working on yourself from the inside out. What you look like on the outside can only be equated to your physical health, meaning being healthy. Whether you are a large size female or a smaller size, it doesn't matter as long as you were healthy. We all have different body types and sizes, whether we're thick or thin, right? It truly depends if you're fit and healthy. And that is very individual. So it's really important, yes, to take care of our physical health, take care of your beauty, your inner beauty, and that will shine itself outwardly. Whether you wear the hijab or not either, that's also another issue where a lot of young women feel that they are not beautiful with the hijab. And subhanAllah, there is a certain beauty to the hijab that when we wear it and love it and wear it with confidence, that beauty shines out. So important to work on our inner self, to talk to the appropriate people, to lift each other, talk to a therapist to work on your self-esteem. Because when you work on your self-esteem, then all else melts. Everything else melts. You no longer become concerned or preoccupied with the way you look, but rather working on your inner self. And naturally, your beauty is just flared out and sparkles out that way.
That is so true. Loving yourself is so important, but in the time of social media, it has become so difficult. The earlier generation might not even understand the struggles of teenagers and young adults in safeguarding their self esteem.